Some of the information I'm going to share with you in today's statistics video on what's going on in the city of Surrey is going to be a little shocking. It might be a little bit triggering for some, and it might be a little concerning for some. I'm going to share all this with you in the hopes that continuing to bring you the real information, the real numbers, and help you get perspective on those is going to help you make better real estate decisions. So, if that all sounds good, we're going to jump into it right now.
Chance to buy or sell your next home. Let's get it right.
Okay, so we need a little bit of perspective as to what's really going on in the real estate market. And I want to caveat this video with a little bit of information I think you're going to appreciate. So, what I'm showing you on the screen right now, the red line at the very top, what that represents is the Vancouver Real Estate Board. So, the Vancouver Real Estate Board covers from Whistler kind of all the way down into Vancouver, Richmond, Burnaby, Tri Cities, that sort of stuff. And this is all property types kind of mixed together. And the blue line is the Fraser Valley Real Estate Board, North Delta, all the way to Abbotsford, basically. I want you to notice the hump towards the beginning of 2024 on the left hand side. And the green line represents kind of the base of where we are today in terms of pricing. But you can see the hump going into the spring of 2024 and into the summer where it starts to kind of peter out and lose all that value that was created. So when we're looking at year over year numbers for the purpose of this video, the year over year numbers are going to look like some pretty big changes, some pretty big drops. But, when I'm showing you that graph, you can see that there's a lot of story in between those numbers. So it's important to keep that in mind when we're looking at these. And I think that helps put it into perspective a little bit better. The other thing that I'm going to share with you before we jump into the statistics is if you don't subscribe to our podcast, Real Estate on Tap, you can find it on any of your favorite podcatchers, or if you're not subscribed to our YouTube channel, you're going to want to subscribe and you're going to want to catch our next update video coming out where me and my business partner, Adam, we're going to discuss two things that I think are really quite important for people. And it's going to put a lot of context and perspective into what's going on out there. And we're going to address a market crash. What is a market crash? How long does a market crash last for? What are the characteristics of a market crash and how do we know if we're in one? Not only do we break that down in detail, but we're also going to talk about prices. And we're going to talk about why prices, when the market is really quite busy, tend to go up really, really fast. But when the market's slow or slower, like it is today, why do they tend to be a lot stickier? Why do they go down so much slower than how quickly they go up? So I think you're really going to enjoy that episode. If you like listening in your car, make sure you download the Real Estate or subscribe to the Real Estate on Tap podcast, or subscribe to the YouTube channel and look for the Real Estate on Tap podcast show that'll be coming out in the next couple days. Okay, so let's jump into it and let's get into exactly what is going on here. Let's maybe do this view. This is probably a little nicer for you. This one, boom. Okay, so condominiums. Condominiums in the city of Surrey. This is the entire city of Surrey combined. You can see the sales to active ratio dropped down to about 11% in the last month or so. So it was up a little bit closer to about 14%, went down to 11.3. And of course, the red bar represents a balanced market condition. You can see we're quite a bit below that. So right now we're seeing about 1 out of 9 condominiums, generally speaking, across the whole city of Surrey, which includes Cloverdale, South Surrey, the middle of Surrey, North Surrey. You're getting about 1 out of 9 that go to the market are actually selling right now. And that has an impact on prices. So we've seen a pretty big steady decrease on prices year over year since the spring of 2024, where the benchmark price is now down at about $519,000. Month over month, condos are down $4,200, and year over year, here's one of those big numbers I was warning you about, down about $28,800 for the benchmark property. So what does that mean? Who's got the advantage in a market like this? Well, the buyers certainly do. My warning has always been to be careful on timing the market for buyers. You never know that the market has changed until it already has. So do be careful about timing the market. You got to consider if you're paying into things like rent, what mortgage rates might do. There's so much that goes into that. And if you need advice or want to talk to a professional about your own unique situation, you can always book a call with us in the description of this video. But what I would also suggest, if anybody is watching this as a seller, that pricing really matters. If you want to sell a condominium in the city of Surrey, you have to be in the right position. There is so much for sale right now. One of the most that I have ever experienced in 18 years of selling real estate. And it is very, very difficult to sell a condo, to be frank. So you need to be in the right position. Otherwise, you are just dead on the market and nobody is looking at you. One thing I want buyers to consider as well is just how stalled new construction is. So a lot of developers have either pressed pause on their projects or simply aren't moving forward with where they are at the current stage. That's going to create a unique opportunity the next couple years, but not right now. We also just had a big announcement on GST. So the removal of GST for first-time home buyers is a very interesting one. We've also got a video coming up on our YouTube channel about that because it creates a unique environment for a home buyer. And of course, it's only proposed that it's going to affect first time buyers right now. But I want you to think about the nature of buying new construction then. If GST is removed, and we know in British Columbia there's no property transfer tax on new construction up to $1.1 million, the GST exemption would be up to, or for first time buyers up to $1 million. So basically anything under $1 million that's brand new will no longer have any tax on it. That's pretty interesting if you think about how that's going to affect the resale market for anybody that's selling that's maybe, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 years old sort of thing, because those properties certainly do pay property transfer tax. So anyways, it'd be interesting to see what's going to happen with that. So a couple things to, consider for that market right there. Townhomes. So townhomes dropped a little bit of their activity as well. They are actually below a balanced market condition right now, down at about 14.5%. So that has started to have an impact in the market as well. Townhomes have come down month over month in terms of their value, down to about 860,000 in terms of the benchmark price across the city. So month over month, they're down about $2,400, and year over year, here's another big number, down about $26,800. Again, advantage to the buyers in this market. Now, I think this market is the market to watch. And the reason for that, you might have heard me say this before, it is the missing middle. It is relatively affordable still. And it is the only market where people can not only comfortably get into it based on incomes, but it also offers the space people need. So that millennial generation who is all buying homes over the last few years, and still lots of them that need to buy homes, who are needing more space. They're having families, starting families. Maybe they've already got families. They need that space. So I do foresee that the townhome market is going to continue to perform relatively well, regardless of little bumps and bruises that might happen here or there. But definitely one to pay attention to. And I think it's going to be continued to be the more productive market, which has been proving me right month over month, for the last few months and whatnot. So think you want to pay attention to the townhouse market. And if you're a buyer, you do have some inventory to go check out right now. You don't have to rush to a decision, but we did see, if I go back here, prices, since the start of the year are actually up. Since the beginning of this year. And while this might be a little bit of a blip the month over the month, it is the missing middle. So just keep that in mind. Let's talk about detached homes now. So detached homes, you got a big thick red line of a balanced market there, and detached homes are way under. So they're down at about 9.1%. That means about 1 out of every 11 detached homes that are coming to the market are actually selling. And that's going to have a big impact on prices, folks. So you can see we had a little bit of a peak earlier on this year around February, but now the detached market is benchmark price is down to about 1.8 million, or sorry, that might be 1.6. Excuse me, that's a little small on my screen there. 1.606. So in the last month, they are down about $21,700. In the last year, they're down $57,100. So obviously, advantage to the buyers. There's tons and tons and tons of inventory to choose from. The days on market is climbing, and sellers are trying to woo you buyers with their prices. So if you're a seller, pricing right matters. Just like we talked about with condos, if you are not pricing your place properly, people will not come and look at it. You are going to be a ghost on the market, and you might as well increase the price by $100,000 because you're not going to get either. So if it helps you feel good, then go for it. You got to get it in the right position to get it transacted. And I think prices will continue to remain challenged in this area, just simply based on the amount of people trying to sell their homes right now and the lack of buyers that are actually removing those from the market. So to wrap this all up, there's a little line on there. That's interesting. That's not supposed to be there. Let's talk real quick about mortgage rates. They are a big market driver. We just had a rate announcement where the Bank of Canada chose to do nothing, which is, some people like it, some people don't, so each their own. But with that being said, the question that's been floating around is what needs to happen to get this market started again? Does it have to come down another quarter point, another half a point? But there is going to be a point where the market does fire up based on the affordability of not only mortgages but real estate. So just keep paying attention to that. And there's a lot of economists that are projecting that there will be a rate cut in July. I mean, we won't make any predictions here, but certainly you're going to want to keep your ears listening for any announcements on that. Economic shifts I really wanted to touch on as well. A lot of people are talking about that we might have a trade deal with the US coming up very soon. I mean, there's so much turbulence with what's going on with the US. That's one of the large reasons I think the market is in the position it is today. But you're going to want to pay attention to that because if a trade deal gets struck, or the other thing that's really going on is I want you to think of the apathy in the market. What I mean by that is you remember when the trade war kind of started, the really kind of pro-Canadian, buy-Canadian, against the US type of mentality that you were really seeing. I don't know about you, but I'm seeing that starting to fade a little bit. People have to live their lives. People have to move forward, and people also get used to the environment in which they have to live and operate in. And if that apathy continues to proceed, regardless of what's going on, you've seen this in the stock market as an example. It tumbled quite low, and now it's back at or above where it was previously. So if that continues to happen, that apathy will fade, or pardon me, that apathy will continue to increase. And you just have to be prepared for that because, people, they can sit on their hands as long as they want, but if they need to buy a house, they're going to buy a house at some point. Demand, we know the demand's there. The demand is there. There's a lot of people waiting to buy homes just to see what's going on. So, you're going to want to be careful that you're not caught off guard. Seasonal trends, lots of talk that we're going to have a late spring market. And in fact, sales are up month over month in terms of how many properties are transacting generally. So we might be getting a little bit of a later spring market, something to keep an eye on. And of course, being in British Columbia, you always, always, always have to be paying attention to what the BC government does because they're always up to something. So, anyways, don't forget to check out Real Estate on Tap for the episode coming up next, or coming up that I had mentioned at the beginning of this video. You can either get on your favorite podcatcher or you can subscribe to our YouTube channel, and I'll probably release it in the next few days. And with that being said, if you need any help or any advice towards your personal situation, our contact information is below, and you're certainly welcome to book a call, and we'll help make sure you get the information you need to be successful. Until next time, thanks for watching, and I hope you got lots out of this. Let me know in the comments if there's anything you'd like to see in these videos, whether you agree or disagree. I mean, they're stats that you're disagreeing with, so, teach their own. But anyways, let me know in the comments if you're getting value out of these, anything you'd like to see, and thanks again for watching. We'll see you soon.